My name is Drew Waldron, and I am on with best-selling author, parenting and child expert, and educational psychologist, Dr. Michele Borba. Michele, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you are so welcome, Drew. Thank you.
So, I think the best place to start this conversation is to talk about the origins of your educational career. You're a best-selling author now, an educational personality now, but where did Michele Borba begin her educational career?
Oh, in classrooms. I had the most incredible teachers you could possibly imagine when I was working on a master's in learning disabilities and an educational psychology degree, PhD in how to help kids be resilient. Those teachers were really helped me realize that resilience is teachable, and we need to reboot and get that message out to parents and teachers.
And what was it that first made you want to go from the classroom to professing about your teaching philosophies, your educational psychology career? What made you take that jump?
Every single jump was because somebody made a phone call and said, "Can you do a speech?" And I said yes. And it was fascinating because I began to do the speeches primarily for parents. And then all of a sudden, teachers and administrators, psychologists, and counselors started asking me, "Can you come on over and do the same thing for us?" It was giving them a toolkit of practices that were proven on how do we raise up a generation of kids who can thrive in a kind of an uncertain, fear-based new world.
I'm glad you said the word thrive because that leads in perfectly to my next question. You are best known for your many books, but your most popular one is Thrivers, your 2023 release. Why do you think that that has been getting so much attention recently? And even now, 2 years after it released, why do you think it's still garnering so much attention from parents and educators alike?
The fascinating thing is, I started writing that book based on kids. It's always been kids, Drew, but I
Mm.
was doing focus groups with hundreds of kids across the US before the pandemic. And every one of them said, when I asked them, what's going on with you, that they were more anxious, they didn't have balance in their life. And I started to look at, so what does help kids be able to bounce back? Because they said they weren't. And these were high achieving, well loved, and very well educated kids thrive. What I saw was the research, and it was absolutely clear that the kids weren't getting it, that they needed a different skill set. And so I put together Thrivers, which was really a combination of what are the seven most highly correlated traits that help kids thrive? How do we teach them? When what's the skill set? The book came out the day the pandemic hit. And everybody asked, "How did you know the kids were going to be so anxious?" I said, "All you have to do is ask them." They are the most stressed out, anxious generation we've ever had, but it means we need to reboot our thinking. We need to look at what the science says and realize that thrivers are made, not born. And when we do that, I think we can help our kids be the best they can be.
And I know it's probably a long and complex answer, but when a parent comes up to you and says, "How can my child be a thriver?" What is the quick explanation that you find yourself giving?
The quick explanation to a mom or a dad or a teacher or a counselor is it's teachable. The thriving is not one skill. I think we've come to the thing of, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a new program and teach resilience. It's not one trait. It's a combination of traits. So I always ask the parent to sit down. I give them a quick little index of, so which of these seven traits is the one that is most highly correlated to your kids and what are they missing? And once they tune in and realize it's that one, I say, okay, then let's start with one skill. The big thing is we try to overwhelm ourselves and it gets us nowhere. But when we start to realize what our kids are missing and what they already have, we begin to reboot it and say, all right, then let's go this way. And we have a new plan for what we're going to do because it's all made out of habits. And habits are highly teachable, Drew. The big thing we do is try to take on too darn much or we change them too often. So if we come up with one little skill or habit and we teach the same skill or habit, this is what the research says, 1 to 3 minutes a day. And we keep doing the same one over and over again until the kid can do it without us. Then we can add on the next and the next. And what we now have is a thriver, a kid who faces the challenge and says, I got this. And that's what a thriver is. They keep on going and they can rebound because we've taught them the skill set they need.
And you talk about so much more than just thrivers and the research found in your book Thrivers. You've been giving keynote speeches to educational groups and even groups outside of that for years. What messages do you find resonating with your audiences the most?
I think the first one is that it's teachable. They are really shocked that this isn't part of their DNA or part of their zip code or, oh, gee, it must be part of their temperament. No, this is extremely teachable. The second thing, Drew, that's fascinating is I've spoken in 30 different countries. And I find that it resonates no matter where I am because, above all else, they're seeing the same anxiety rise in kids anywhere in any continent. So once we get on board and realize, hey, we got this, it's not just the kids, we begin to see, all right, then what are we going to do to help raise up this generation who's not so anxious and not so lonely and not so risk adverse, but have the abilities to be able to bounce back and keep on going?
I know that they're dealing with some not so great issues, but it's kind of nice that all cultures, no matter what country you go to, they're all dealing with the same thing. Do you ever notice that? What do you think about that?
I am fascinated with it. I mean, I've gone from, just came back recently from Abu Dhabi, spoken Mexico City and Colombia. I'm on my way across to Europe, and I find no matter where I am, it resonates. The most interesting thing was a dad from Egypt came up and said, "Thank you so much. Now I know that I'm more than just, a package here, that I really can make a difference on on my son's life." And I think that's what we all got to keep in mind, that this is a new generation, but it's also a new culture. And when we see and recognize that anxiety is over the top, not in just the kids, but also in us, then we begin to take some ownership. And it all starts with being a little bit more intentional. What I want to do is give parents and teachers and wherever I am an audience of, here are practical, proven, simple things you can do, but keep repeating them. And if you keep repeating them over and over again, that's how our kids will catch them, own them, and be able to use them any place and any time. And that's what we really got to do, is pat ourselves on the back and go, he's doing it everywhere and he's doing it without me. All you have to do is figure out which skills your child needs. I'll give you a repertoire of them. There's too many of them. Now dare narrow it down and say, here's what my student, my child, my patient needs, and that's how we begin.
Certainly. And you say spreading this message wherever you are. Now, you are primarily known for speaking to educational groups, but you also speak to corporate and entrepreneurial groups. And I feel like at first glance, someone might not understand why an educational psychologist is speaking to an entrepreneurial groups. But what do you feel that they have to learn from you and learn from your talks?
The fascinating thing is, it's really resonating with entrepreneurs. And the reason is they begin to see that the business set from Forbes to Harvard is saying, hey, the new employees, that means the 20-ish set, is lacking some of the most critical skills that are going to help them become future ready. The top one on the list, fascinating, says Harvard, is empathy. Digital natives are looking down, not up, and it's hard for them to connect with a real live human being. But you can't be good out there in the workplace unless you can step into the customer's shoes and say, what does he need? The other thing is they need the grit and the perseverance to keep on going, and a strength set. The fascinating thing is Gallup, George Clifton, has been looking at millions of people and telling us too often what we're doing, this is in the workplace, 77% of the time is focusing in our deficits and not our strengths. We do the same with our kids. And that's why one of the most critical of the 7 strengths of thrivers is confidence. We need to be talent scouts. Look at what do our kids have that helps them thrive? What sparks them? What makes them eager? Same thing in the workplace of the entrepreneur. We know from University of Chicago that you're happiest and you're more likely to persevere when you're in a flow state of being engaged in what your strength is. Well, let's make sure that our kids know what their strengths are. So when they go and forge themselves off to college, it's not because it's a good looking place that has a great motto, but it's a place that is going to be one that they feel they can connect and belong. And it's a one that's going to help them develop their strengths. That's the business set, and that's helping our kids become future ready.
Very well said. Michelle, if I could ask for a tiny peek behind the curtain, you are currently working on your next book, which is entitled Anxious. Before we started recording, you told me that you believe it's about 2 years away from being published. Can you give us a quick synopsis of what this book is going to be about and the level of research that's going into it?
Well, the level of research is profound. I just got a new eyeglasses because my eyes are just shot from the research. But the bottom line is, I want to give teachers counselors in the profession tools that is a reset for education. We know that our kids aren't future ready, and we know we're dealing with the most anxious, lonely, risk adverse population on record. So, what do they need in order to thrive? We still need to teach them, but how are we going to make sure they're more engaged? They can speak up, they can speak out, they're more confident in themselves. And what I'm discovering over and over again from observing really, really hundreds of schools and teachers, there are simple ways to weave this in so we can raise up these kids who graduate with not only the degree, but also the ability to make it and thrive.
Very well said. That is going to conclude my interview with Dr. Michele Borba. Dr. Michele, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you.